Joining us right now, the young star on the rise, a guy that's trying to make something out of it, of Italian football TV, Marco Messina. Marco, welcome.
Hi, how are you, Anthony? How's everything going, man?
Very good, Marco. Great to have you on. Marco, you've just returned from Italy. Let's talk about the Coppa Italia. Talk to us about the atmosphere, the game, everything leading up to it. Give us a day in the life of Marco Messina right there in the heart of it all.
Well, my dad was flying into Rome. He does a lot of business there, and I was studying in Milano. And he texted me at 12:30 the day before. He's like, listen, I tried to get you tickets, but it's not happening. I couldn't get it. He calls me 8 minutes later. He said, get on a bus and come to Rome. We're going to the game tomorrow. So it was intense, just the way that we like it, and the atmosphere was insane. I've never seen a stadium like that before. Milan fans and Juventus fans were dying for that match. It was a lot of fun.
And not only a lot of fun, but it was a clean match. It was a match that both supporters really enjoyed right to the end. And as I said, the atmosphere from my end, watching it here in Toronto, Canada, was electric. It was something that brings me back to the 80s, the early 90s, as a young man watching these two big squads going at it.
Oh, absolutely. We saw Juventus not play as well as we've seen them the whole season. They looked a little bit hungover from their Scudetto celebrations. But Milan were the real talking point. You know, they came out fighting, and their fans were so intense. We know they had problems with the fans in the past, protesting at the San Siro, but they were so intense, and the match was a lot more even because Juventus weren't as great, and Milan were stepping it up, which made it a lot more interesting. And I really thought it was going to go Milan's way at one point. But Juventus, they pulled through just like they always do.
Marco, let's talk about that game and in general from both sides of supporters of the young and up-and-coming Italian players that people can watch for and that should be keeping a keen eye on. We know Donnarumma, this kid is going to be the next Buffon. We can agree on that. But who are some of the others? We just spoke about Antonio Conte making his final decision tomorrow, and there's not a lot on the horizon as it comes to defenders. What are the Italian people saying that they're concerned about, and who do they like that are coming up?
I mean, yeah, there's always that concern. There's been a lot of talk that there's not some real talented Italian youngsters out there. But we've seen Romagnoli, who's young, step up at Milan, and also Daniele Rugani, who didn't get a lot of minutes this year at Juventus. But with Barzagli, Bonucci, and Chiellini, you can't really expect too much. But Rugani is definitely another guy to keep your eye on. Bernardeschi is actually one of my most exciting Italian youngsters that I'm following a lot. I've heard great things from him at Fiorentina, from some people at the club, saying that this guy is going to be big. And he's the only one who really strikes me, besides like Insigne, who's not as young anymore. He's the only one who sees like technically really gifted, like a Roberto Baggio, someone who could electrify the game and bring creativity to Italy that we don't have.
The only creativity that we have is injured, and that's Marco Verratti. Here's a young guy that I believe, if he's 100% healthy, getting ready for the World Cup qualifying back in the fall when he's going to take on Spain and other nations, I believe he can bring a lot to the table, Marco. This kid is hungry, he's young, he's played in a lot of tough situations in France, and he's grown quite a bit.
I 100% agree with you. I interviewed him last summer, actually, and I got a huge insight to who Verratti is. He's such a humble guy, incredible person to talk to. And like you said, he's already been on this stage. Not a lot of young Italians have played in the Champions League like he has. And he's worked with Ibra, Cavani, champions, Thiago Silva, people who know how to win games. And he's learned so much, and it's such a big loss for Italy, because this could have been the real chance for him to take over and lead Italy for the first time.
Now, continue on.
No. I was just going to say that it gives opportunity for other people to step up. I know there's more hungry young Italian players out there who want to get their chance, and that's what this opportunity does. Yes, it sucks, but as Italy, we need to make the best of it.
And that's what I want to talk to you about, Marco. You were there in Italy. You spent a lot of time. You were there at the cafes, at the restaurants. You were there at many different stadiums. You talked to a lot of different supporters of different teams. I want to hear what they had to say when it comes to, in regards to this Italian team that's going to be announced tomorrow, that is going to be, I'm almost sure, three-quarters, if not full of a team full of veterans, a lot of them over the age of 30, 35, on and on and on. Are they concerned? Did you hear from them that there's not enough young blood? that's being instilled on the national team so that when the older guys, pass the torch like Buffon, Chiellini, and Bonucci, they're ready? Are they concerned about that?
I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. Going to these cafes every morning with a cappuccino and a cornetto, you speak about football and you speak about Conte and the Italian national team. And while talking about the club football, when we speak about the national team, there's not as much hope as you'd expect or you'd think. So there's a big division in Italy, from what I saw, at least being in Milano, of who likes Conte, who doesn't like Conte, who agrees with his decisions, and who doesn't agree with his decisions. A lot believe that he's like a winner and that he could get the job done. But like you were saying, they're a little bit concerned over who he's called up and don't necessarily agree with it.
So then, Marco, the million-dollar question is this. Is it time Italy looks outside of the country to bring in a foreign coach? I'm going to bite my tongue and I'm going to say, yes, it is, because maybe the talent will be evaluated much differently with different eyes, different opinions, on and on. I believe it's time because, look, here you saw the clip I had about Giovinco. Pavoletti is off this squad too, on and on. There's guys that are not on this squad because of politics, because of arrogance, because of the Italian way that Conte has gone about things.
Hey man, I want the same thing as every Italian fan does, and that's to win. And if that did mean bringing in a foreign coach, then of course I'd be open to it. I think that while Conte, maybe he made some decisions that I don't necessarily agree with, I'm still a big Conte fan, and I still think he's going to prevail with the team just because of that mentality that he has. It's tough. It's going to be rough. I'm not going to say it's so easy, it's going to come easy, but I think he can instill that mentality and get the best out of what he has. Yes, I know Giovinco is that big question, and I heard you talk about it. I heard you talk to his agent about it, and I agree with you, man. I don't see how he wasn't called up, especially considering who was available.
And Marco, not only that, but you call me up Montolivo, who to me is an absolute. It's a joke to call up Montolivo. Now, we hear today he's injured or he's not 100%. And Pirlo's in New York City FC yesterday, threading a beautiful pass to Villa and others.
I saw that.
And you're right there. Are you kidding me that Pirlo couldn't come there, at least give you a solid 45, maybe 60 minutes of a game? Give your head a shake.
Dude, I'm once again with you on this one. I agree that I think Pirlo still has a lot to give. And I know a lot of people out there don't think so, and apparently Antonio Conte too. But yeah, Montolivo, he's not even going to be called up. Most likely, the squad will be announced tomorrow. But yeah, he got hurt. And even if he wasn't hurt, I still would prefer Pirlo than over Montolivo. Even if he's playing in MLS. I mean, I saw someone tweet about the goal, about the pass that he made. Is like, oh, Pirlo's pass doesn't count because it was in the MLS. And it gets such a bad rep, but let him train with the team. Let him train with the team. See if he still has it. What do you have to lose by just calling him up and seeing if he's still fit enough, if he's still competitive enough? Just same with Giovinco. That's what I think.
Marco, let's talk about your time that you spent there. Did you get the sense, did you get the idea from the Italian supporters of different teams that they yearn for the days past where you saw Zidane play in Italy, where you saw Michel Platini, Ziggy Boniac, Baggio, on and on. I could give you names from here to the end of the moon, Maldini. Do they miss those days because there's no identity with these players today? Maybe Totti still has that, maybe a couple others, but for the most part, there's missing that identity of those world-class players that they don't see.
Hey, I actually spoke with a guy who's a Milan fan, diehard Milan fan, been living in Italy for 45 years, always went to the stadium for every single game. The past 3 years, he hasn't gone to the stadium because he's fed up, completely fed up with how the team is run, how the team's been performing. And I've seen that across Milano, especially with Milan fans. They're not happy, and it's good. They should not be happy. The way that the club's being run is not who AC Milan is, and we've seen clearly that Italy needs them in the Champions League because they seem like they're some of the only ones with Champions League DNA. And besides Juventus, and we saw how well Napoli did this season, even though they turned off, there's not that mentality like there used to be of winning and not being afraid, like you said, and there's not that that much talent anymore. And I think it starts with the management. If you look at what Juventus did, since coming from Serie B, it's incredible. The work that Agnelli, the president, Paratici, and Marotta, the directors, have done. They took the long game. They didn't go for those quick, shortcuts. They spread it out, and they made smart transfers, and they built upon winning and got a coach and stuck to a plan. Not getting 8 different coaches in 2 seasons like Milan have. I mean, there's no plan. There's no,
and I agree with you. Look, I'm a Roma fan. I'll put the cards on the table. But to me, I enjoyed watching Sassuolo play this year, and I've enjoyed a lot what they've done, their progression, their development. I enjoyed a bit of Carpi, Frosinone. I like these stories, Marco, because, we can talk about Juve, we can talk about Napoli, we can talk about Milan, Inter, Roma, but it gets old after a while. It's nice to hear some stories like Leicester City under Ranieri, and I would love to see like a Frosinone, a Carpe, a Sassuolo, someone like that rise to the top.
Yeah, we all love those underdog stories. And Sassuolo is a great point of a fantastic team that wasn't scared to try. Di Francesco instilled that mentality like, listen, guys, we don't have anything to lose. They undervalue us as Sassuolo, so why not try? And they beat so many of the bigger teams, so-called bigger teams, and they were getting those points, racking up those points, and slowly we're like, wow, Sassuolo's in Europe, It's beautiful to see stuff like that.
Marco, just before we let you go, the last talking point I wanted to discuss with you simply is we know in Italy, in the last, I would say at least the last 10 years, the economy has been absolutely very difficult for the Italian people. Jobs are very scarce to come by, and people are having a difficult time. Do you get a sense after you've left there and spending a lot of time that it's hard for people to get those tickets like they used to in the past because they were working? Do you find it hard for them even to go to the cafes and get a coffee and grab something to eat and enjoy with a group because, their mind is not clear. They're worrying about the next day to put food on the table and not like it was years ago about focusing on everything in regards to their club?
I mean, absolutely. In regards to the stadium prices, they're very expensive that I've seen. But going to cafes, I think Italians, even if they have nothing left, they'll still go there to get that old chatter. But yeah, going around, you always hear when they tell them I'm from New York, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm in love with that place. I'm in love with America. I'm in love with North America. They say there's so many jobs and opportunities. And the people, as much as they love the country, Italy, they're so affectionate towards it. They say like they want that jobs that we have over here in North America. So yeah, I definitely saw that, but it's tough to say. I mean, it really is.
Michael, it's really a pleasure having you on, my friend. I know you do great work on Italian Football TV. Tell us a little bit where people can watch that. Tell us about some of the people you've had on in the past. And I understand you're still trying to work on trying to get Giuseppe Rossi to be on one of your shows, right?
Hey, yeah. So I have a YouTube channel, Italian Football TV, for English-speaking Italian football fans. We're working on changing everything up and becoming a real news channel, so definitely check us out if you're interested in that kind of stuff. We've interviewed Del Piero. We actually interviewed Giuseppe Rossi. We've been at Pirlo's press conferences and stuff. So yeah, we're trying to really push out stuff, and we're working on a project to become a place where any Italian fan could come and enjoy and get some content.
Well, it's outstanding. A young guy like you, Marco, trying to do these things, it warms my heart because you love the game, you're passionate about it, you care about it. And I think that's what's important moving forward, that we have young blood like yourself continuously going on and enjoying what you're doing and pushing ahead the great game that we love here in North America. Marco, thanks again, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll get you back on as the Euro begins, my friend.